young or like
A
when you're
dream?
very like a little child, what do you want to do? Like what job do you want to do when you grow up?
That's a good question. I actually wanted to be a chef. I wanted to be a famous cook and have my own cooking show.
Wow.
Yeah, like Rachel Ray, maybe.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and then
Why? Like did it come from the TV or
I feel like I've always liked being like on stage. Like I liked kind of, and I feel like when I was a little girl, I like did makeup tutorials in front of the mirror, and like when I cooked, I'd be like, okay, now we're gonna add a cup of sugar, or and I just like kind of enjoyed. I don't know. I grew up doing theater and like presenting things, and I've loved speaking, and yeah, I've always loved cooking, and so I think I like remember watching a cooking show, and I was like, I want to be her when I'm older. Like, this
so
is what I want to do.
wow. Then did it change when you were like in middle school?
It definitely, well, I think like as soon as I started, I feel like we start to have more like, we have classes like math and reading and language arts, and then you start to focus, then, you start to
Biology.
realize, right, biology, and then you start to think like, wait, is it really realistic that I can be famous or like be a famous star or like have a personality, like have a TV personality show? Um, and I feel like I was told a lot to like maybe be more realistic, I guess.
Yeah, and how about high school when you're really trying to figure out what you're gonna do?
So in high school, I was in a business magnet program, and I loved it because I was always like, I felt like I was always kind of creative, and I was in the entrepreneurship program. And so um, I loved like coming up with new products and ideas. And so I think I always loved food and like cooking. And I started to come up like with little food inventions or products that could be sold in the grocery store. And I would use always, whenever we had a project, I would always do it something food related, which is
Wow,
interesting. Yeah.
let's see the connection.
Yeah.
And how about college? What are you studying now, and what do you want to do now?
College. Wait, can I say something?
Ooh. Okay, hi, we're back again.
Hi.
So, so what did you learn when you were in college?
So I was in the School of Hospitality,
Okay.
and I didn't have any specific like major, just because I just wanted to kind of explore the whole industry. I always liked the people side of business, so I thought like instead of Questrom, Shaw was more like it was business, but like the people side. Um, and I also like wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I liked all the classes and how small Shaw was at BU. Um, but I took all different classes like leadership, marketing. I took a food and beverage course, a cooking class. Woo, cooking. Um, I took revenue management, and then of course like any electives I wanted. So yeah, I definitely took a wide range of courses, but within like the hospitality field. Um, and It was great. Like I truly loved all my professors, and they did inspire me because I feel like our professors are like kind of like distinguished people in their profession. So it's like you can kind of like look up to them, and it like gives you hope, I guess, kind of with like, where you can take your skills and your knowledge of the industry after college.
Oh,
Oh, what was the
and
second part? Like, what do I do?
no, I mean, yeah, I can definitely see that the connection to food. It's always been there. And then what are you currently doing now since you're not in college?
Yeah, so definitely like navigating that process was like a big anxiety source for me. Like I always had stress because I I've always had so many different passions, and I could never really be like, I want to just be this, like, or this, so I want to be a doctor. You know, I've liked a wide range of things. So ultimately, when I was looking for a job, I figured that the best way to find a job is to look at, the descriptions of the jobs and find qualities in the jobs that I like. And when I found out about being an engagement coordinator at U Hillel, I just like fell in love with the job because it kind of was like my dream job. So yeah, I'm the engagement coordinator at U Hillel, and my job is to cultivate and create community on campus, and strengthen community also for Jewish individuals. But it is an open space for everyone, and that's what I really love about it. But I think my favorite part about the job and like why it's so meaningful is because I get to have conversations with students every day, and I advise them, and you develop, um, you really get to know students, and you know it's something new every day, which I really like. It's not just like sitting in a cubicle. I'm constantly out and about, and I think that's what makes me smile every day.
Cool, that's amazing.
Thank
So,
you.
were there any um were there any challenges that you confronted when you're finding a job or when you're
Yeah,
deciding what job do you want to do?
yeah. I think kind of going off what you first were starting to say, like when I was little, what did I want to do? I feel like I have always deep inside like had that, kind of like dream job of I want to be a famous, per TV personality. Um, and as you get older, you start to realize that dream jobs can be so much more than that. So sort of like realizing that, your dream job, like this is my like I'm so happy with what I do, Um, but would I've imagined myself doing this at 5 years old, no. So it's definitely interesting because I think, even now, I think there's a part of me that would love to be a famous TV personality. So in some ways, it's kind of like you have that inner conflict with yourself. Um, and also kind of I'm the kind of person that's very like wishy-washy with what I want to do. Like I have so many different passions. So it's like, well, I could do this or this. And it was very hard for me to be like to stay and kind of focus on something. I definitely have an eclectic resume because I was never able to really like follow a specific path. Um, and so for me, I think that was a struggle.
Thank you. So, do you think what are the reasons why that you couldn't um just stay on one like
Path.
yeah like what
Mhm.
makes you want to find um to open instead of some people say oh I have to be a
Mhm.
lawyer, some people say I have to be a
Yeah.
doctor.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that honestly has a big thing to do with, I think it's to do with a lot of things. I think maybe a part of it is like literally like my personality type. Like I'm so like like I just like have so many loves and things, and some people are just they just know, and that was just never my case, and I always like envied those people because I was like why can't I just like want to be this and just like stay on this path. um and I don't know, like I don't have like a great answer for that question because I think it really just is like in my DNA. Like
Okay.
yeah, like I just am that kind of a person.
Would you say maybe are there any economic, social, or any political factors?
That's a good one. Yes, definitely. I mean, I live in America.
Yeah.
Like, I have the freedom to be able to choose any profession that I want. Like, I'm very lucky. Um, I was very blessed with parents who were incredibly supportive, and they supported all of my passions. So, like, whenever I was like, I want to start a baking business, they would support me and, want me to do that. Or, wait, I want to start like a bracelet company or something, I would pivot, but they would still support me. I think they just want me to be happy. And I feel like I'm very, very lucky that I've been able to go to this school and be able to kind of like experiment with what I want to do. Um, but also, I think I have a major source of anxiety for me is what I want to do in my life, because I think that I take such I put such weight on that, on like my job, like because jobs don't equal happiness, but like I think a lot of people have this like perception in their mind that like their job they have to be this or this, because if they're not going to be happy, or they're not going to live up to their mother or father's expectations, or like what they want to do. Um, and I think I'm the biggest critic of myself, and I'm lucky that like my parents aren't my biggest critic. In some ways they are, but so yeah, does that answer that a bit better?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about international students. So so since you work with many students, do you feel that you interact with international students a lot?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah.
And how would you describe, so how what it makes international students different among like American students? What do you feel?
Um, so I like I said, like I also went to BU. Um, and I think that what's so wonderful and like what create the BU is like a melting pot of all different kinds of students. And um I think that like what makes this different is also like so wonderful. But I think that part of it is English may not be their first language. Um, the culture could be extremely different. There are different politics in different countries, so maybe like coming to America is like a very free environment. I think, yeah, I think just like even into terms of like the way people, um, you know, like how there's such a thing as like warm cultures and colder cultures, people who are more inviting, or people who are more polite and more reserved. So I think that I mean, in any culture, you'll see that. Like, you'll see people who are more warm and or more like reserved. But I think that there's definitely like more tendencies of each culture and each country brings out slightly different um, patterns of like yeah, I don't yeah.
Oh, so you're saying that not everyone from one culture is the same,
No.
because there's even differences within like people, the group, right?
Of course, everybody's different.
So you were also an international student, right? Because you went to many different countries to study. And what do you feel when you are at another country? Could you talk about You went to Japan, I could talk
Yeah.
about like and China like languages. Like,
Yeah.
is that a problem for you?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, like I wish I could just speak fluent Japanese. Like that would solve all my problems. But yeah, immediately like when I was in Japan, I just noticed such um a difference in so many things, from like the fact that I didn't see any trash cans everywhere anywhere. Like it was just so clean. Like I don't know, I couldn't find trash cans anywhere for some reason. Like on the street and stuff. Like it was very clean. Um, there's no, like in here in Boston, you can find litter everywhere. Like I didn't see any litter anywhere.
Oh,
And even like, I felt, I saw like a lot of people dressed so beautifully in Japan, and like I felt like I could just kind of, I felt like people just knew that I was different, like I
oh,
spoke a different language. I wasn't Japanese. I didn't know how to get anywhere. And I just felt like, um, I just felt like kind of nervous because I didn't know how to do anything, and I didn't want to, do anything wrong. So yeah. But then, so I like went to Japan, but then right after I went to Vietnam. And so there was such a difference.
another different.
So like Vietnam, the people, such a warm culture. Um, there was, no people were. I couldn't walk through. You just walk through the traffic. Like there's really no traffic lights, and it's just so different. So I think the really awesome thing about like traveling from country to country is like people just live in such different ways, and that's their normal. And like I think that's so wonderful and cool. Yeah.
Wow. Um, so did anything that you were traveling, did anything appear very like problematic for you, or if there's any practices that you just can't practice, but they do it normally or as part of their culture?
Um.
Like any food that they eat, any
Oh, that I don't
behavior,
eat.
yeah,
Um.
the places they go to.
Um. I personally, I mean, I think I explored a lot of different
Oh
foods.
yeah.
I was very open to eating a lot of the foods,
Yeah.
and um, I personally didn't experience that, but I know that like there are countries where like you can't enter certain buildings or places unless like you're that religion, or
Oh,
um, yeah, because it's like a very holy place. Um, but I personally, I didn't go to any places like that or experience that. Yeah.
okay. Um, so you work with students here, and do you work with students who are trying to get a job here, and then w- do could you show us like their problems that they might face when they are finding a job as an international
Mhm.
student here?
Um,
Like the
well,
process they have to go
yeah.
through and the
Well, my
regulations.
job isn't to do that. I don't know. I don't want to give the wrong, because I don't have the answer to that, but I can assume that like they could run into problems, especially because of COVID right now. For instance, like I this summer, like I wanted to work abroad, but they wouldn't the the company wasn't allowing me to like get a work visa because of COVID. So I was just kind of stuck. Um, yeah.
So there's those like policies and regulations on international students who try to work in
Oh,
the country. Then
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you think that's a major issue for them?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Is there any other issues or anything interesting that you notice that's unique about international students, especially like Asian students?
hmm Um, I think like I don't know if this relates to it, but I remember in my first year like writing class, I would say half the class, 50%, were Asian, and the other half were not. And I feel like the the Asian students felt most comfortable just interacting with each other, and there was such like a
Mm.
distinct separation between the Asian students and like the American students.
Wow.
Um, and like I remember like I was very shy freshman year, but that was just something I noticed. And we were put all in like groups together, and like that was when we interacted. But I think that a lot of them, just felt comfortable, and maybe just because of like the language barrier, and or maybe they had just known each other. But I noticed that in that class, at least, there was a bit of like a separation. And that was something that as a class we all worked to kind of, I noticed like my professor would want us all to work together and stuff. And at the end, like we were all friends. But I think in the beginning it's us, of course it's most comfortable to, you know, be with people who are from the same place. So yeah, that's something I noticed.
How about outside of class, more like
Yeah.
life? Do you feel that Asian students are having any issues in terms of like life or
Social.
social issues?
Um, I think that people who I think that like in terms of like college students with similar interests or from certain places, they tend to group up.
Mm.
Um, and there are groups of students who are friends who are all from Russia, and there are students who are all from France, and because it's nice. It feels like a community. And so I think that there is in some ways a good, like some people do a good job at like including everyone and creating bigger communities that are more diverse. But I can definitely see that um, it could be socially, um, what's the word? Like, um, yes, it could be hard. I think that it could feel kind of like people could maybe feel excluded.